Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication, as well as child development and how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle of self-government. And in this video, we're talking about how to parent a questioner child. In this video, we're going to be talking about a questioner. What is that? A person who just asks questions? I mean, yes and no. I am a questioner person, which is why I say yes and no. Because when there's more to it, a questioner has to tell you. And they have to ask about it too. I learned about questioners from this book here, The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. And if you've subscribed to this channel already, you know I don't usually refer people to other books, but this is a good one. We're going to be talking about this book and about questioners. We're going to talk about what it can look like if you have a child that's a questioner, so that maybe you can identify that. And then we're going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses that questioners have, and how you can use teaching self-government principles to parent that little questioner. So Gretchen Rubin talks about questioners, these people who ask questions all the time. So what is it about these people? Why do they interrupt all the time? Because they do. Why do they seem like they have to have the last word? Because they do. Why do they always have so much to say? Because they do. Because they're questioners. Questioners do funny things. If they say one word, let's say they say the word shame, but they don't really mean shame, and they'll say, well, actually, I don't really mean shame, I mean more like guilt, because guilt is more healthy than shame. That's something a questioner would do. They would say a word, change it up right in front of you, and let you know their definition of the word. Because they want to make sure they nail it exactly right. In their head, they're always asking themselves, is that the right word? Is that the right way to say that? Am I doing this correctly? Am I looking at that person in the right way? Do they know that they're understood? Now, not every questioner asks that question, but as a questioner parent, I certainly ask that question a lot. In fact, one of the ways that I became such a good parent for all of the troubled teens that I work with, and I guess as a questioner, I should definitely check myself there and say, I'm not trying to brag about being a good parent or anything like that, but people did start asking me to write books and stuff because of the success I had with troubled teens. And with my own 4 children, who now have all reached adulthood. And one of the things that I did was, as a questioner, asked myself the types of questions that would not get me trying to prove them wrong, but try to help me understand them instead. So if you're a questioner parent, you might have a little bit of a problem of not listening to your children that much and trying to prove all of their arguments wrong. In fact, you may engage in arguments and debates with them more often than you would like because you're a questioner. But they may be debating and litigating with you because they're questioners too. Oftentimes, questioners end up having lots of discussions and arguments and back talk, and their environments are very vocal. Oftentimes, questioners seem like they have high levels of anxiety because they want to say so much. And maybe they do have a little bit of anxiety on the inside because of all the questions that they're asking themselves. They want to make sure that they get answers to those questions because they really want to understand. They really are focused on finding the truth. What I've noticed is that a lot of people who are questioners are actually the type of people who have strong beliefs. So they believe certain things to be true. And once they feel like they have solid answers on those beliefs, any other information they get, they have to compare to those beliefs. And so the questions start going. And that's when they start asking questions to other people. Now, if a questioner is not the type that has really strong convictions or beliefs, they just are an understanding questioner, then they might just be asking questions because they want to show they care. They may have a secondary tendency of obliger that actually leads them to express themselves in more caring ways. A questioner is calm when things make sense. If too many questions are left unanswered, they are not okay. In fact, they're going to keep stewing on the questions again and again in their mind. They could become very preoccupied with all the questions they're trying to answer and the problems they're trying to solve if too many things are not addressed in a communication with somebody, or maybe in a piece of news media that they've read or a book that they've read, they have to get to the bottom of it. So questioners like to do their research. That means they like more information. So what can you do if you are parenting a child that is a questioner? Well, if you've read this book before, Parenting a House United, which is one of my main books of the 11 that I've written, you will know that I advocate for answering the question why and telling your children why up front. So if you're going to give them an instruction to do something, now hopefully they've learned from you the steps to following an instruction, which are to look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, do the task immediately, and then check back. If you've given that upfront information, that makes it even easier on the questioner child. But then if you explain to them, I'm giving you this instruction to take your dish over, and you follow it up with a because statement, such as, because it's actually your dish night, and if everyone takes their dishes over, that will make it easier on you when you need to do your dishes. Then that makes complete sense. They see a reason to take their dish over, and everybody else sees a reason too. In fact, they might see that in the future, it's better for everyone to take their dish over because it helps the person who is in charge of dish duty that night. So giving that simple why makes a big difference. Think about what would happen with the teenage girl who wants to go to the party and you say no, but you don't give a reason. And then what do? They go out of control. They argue. They say, but why? But you don't care about me. Everybody else is doing it. Everyone's going. But if you were to say you can't go to the party because, and you give the reason why, they still may not be completely happy about it, may even still ask a few questions, but they know where you're coming from now. And so there's not as much to ask or worry about. They'll just have to accept it. Unless they ask themselves a question, which is, why do I have to accept this from them? In which case, you've got to be ready for that follow-up as well, which means they need consistent correction, which also explains to them more reasons why. So questioners love the vision, the family meetings, the planning, learning all of the skills of self-government, like the 4 basic skills, all ahead of time. They love knowing exactly how you will correct them before you ever do it, because that gives them all of the why and the how, and they don't have to ask any more questions in the moment. They just trust the process and they can go through it. They can actually accept their corrections. They can be corrected and not just have to be right. There is a skill that a questioner absolutely can find invaluable, and that is the skill disagreeing appropriately. That's one of those 4 basic skills of self-government. When a person disagrees appropriately, they learn to say what they understand about the other person's point of view before they express their point of view. And they learn how to connect with and care about the person. But they also get understood during this valuable process. When they know they have a way to get understood by you or to get some of their questions answered, you better believe they're going to be using that skill. So that skill, which I call the gateway skill to self-government, is so valuable because it helps all those questions get answered from the questioners. And it helps them get in the right part of their brain to follow through with their self-government, which is that prefrontal cortex. Because when a questioner does not get their questions answered, that's when they start getting emotional. I was a questioner. I asked so many questions. I think I really wore my parents out. My mother was an obliger. So that meant that she just wanted to do things to make people happy. When I would ask her questions all the time, that gave her the message that I wasn't happy with her, that I didn't agree with her, that she wasn't doing good. This was hard for her to take. In fact, I feel really bad now that I didn't understand these tendencies as a young person. So hey, why not teach your children about these tendencies too? If we understand each other's tendencies, then we can be more successful in all of our relationships. Take the test in Gretchen Rubin's book, The 4 Tendencies. It could be super powerful. And learn about all the tendencies. So I've got a video on this channel called The 4 Tendencies book and the Self-Government Skills for Success. Look at that video so that you can find out about all of the tendencies, not just being a questioner.